everyone. This is the debrief for the self-awareness activity for the week of May 3rd. So if you remember, it was structure, kindness, and stop and allow. So the gist of this was to notice whatever structures you had in your life that had started to feel tight, like a cage, something that was restricting you and holding you back rather than supporting you. With the realization that whatever structure we were in, whoever else was responsible for helping to create it, that we also created it. Excuse me. And to notice if you were in one or if you had been in one at a certain point in your life. And just, I think in general, to look at what structures you actually have created that you may not have thought of as a structure. I think that's worth looking back over the week and noticing whether or not you found any one of those ideas showing up for you. But in terms of structures that you may have created that you hadn't thought of as structures, you can include in there friendships, social groups such as like going to book clubs, even things like if you have a regular Thursday night where you go out with friends after work for a drink, that can also be a kind of structure too. It can be social structuring in a general context or in a very specific one. Now, you were asked to embrace the energy of kindness. So I will read that one. It carries a quality of gentleness, empathy, gracious consideration, and humaneness. It may be experienced in an attitude of sympathy, amiability, benevolence, or tenderness. Each time you have the choice to be right or kind, choose kind. Now, I find that really wonderful in conjunction with the awareness activity you were specifically being asked to embrace, and that was, today notice every time you find a positive thought or dream interrupted with sneaky thoughts that tell you it's too good to be true. Stop. Instead, tell your mind that it's at least a possibility, however slight it seems. Just for today, negative self-thought is not part of the experiment. Give yourself permission to dream and think in positive terms without censoring yourself. Allow for the possibility. So I can see really very much where that goes along with the idea of kindness, smoothness, ease, and when you put it in context of the structure, I would look at that and I would say, okay, so did you find that as you were dreaming about good thoughts, you had thoughts interrupt about structures you were in that were holding you back? That would be a really big one. I would look at that. And I would look at whether or not that attitude of, or the habit, the thought habit, because that's really what it is, of having your positive thoughts side-railed by negative thoughts, has that been part of your pattern in life in general? And has that been something that has perhaps caused you to create structures that maybe weren't as alivening, if that's a word, alive making? I know that's not a word, but has that affected the kind of structures you have created in your life, or your ability to move out of structures, and when you embrace the energy of kindness, how did you find it easy? Whether in relation to this exercise or just in general, did you find it easy to move into kindness, to embrace that as an energy, as a way of being? And was it easier for you to step aside from right to kind? Right? Now, again, kind doesn't have to mean letting people who are destructive have their way. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking very much about whether or not you have the need to constantly be correcting somebody over something that maybe isn't really that important. Do you have, and again, it doesn't even have to be something you speak. It can just be something you think. So that would be something I would look at and question and say, how did that play out for you this week? So I'm going to leave it with that. Just generally, I would say, for those of you who are following the debriefs, because not everybody who's listening to the actual exercises follows up with a debrief. But for those of you who are, I think it's really valuable to, if there's any one thing that stands out for you, and I don't think I've said this before, but if there's any one or two things that really stand out for you, it's actually worth it to kind of flag it. Write it down if you're into writing and journaling. That's a really good way to start exploring and deepening things, deepening emotions underneath it, bringing up memories of things that have a similar frequency, a similar feel to them, especially if it's related to something that's been a sticking point for you in your life. It's a really, really valuable way to do that. So again, the debrief can just simply be listening to this and seeing what comes up, but it really can be exploring it more deeply. And if not within your journal, if any of you are seeing practitioners, therapists of some kind, it can be really valuable to bring up some of the ideas and thoughts and feelings that emerge from this to work with a practitioner. So that's it for now, my friends. And now I'm going to do the self-awareness activity for the coming week. Take care. And thank you for coming.